Welcome to another video. The name of the channel is Black is One, where the agenda is to unify and elevate all persons of African ancestry, wherever we are in the world. I'm revisiting the present Kanye West fiasco. You see, I realized that all the things that I wanted to have said could not be said in one video, so I had to do a second. Now, you see, the lessons we can learn from this situation are priceless. The things that are playing out right before us are just, when somebody said that one picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, the lessons from this whole scenario are worth 1,000 books, 1,000 articles, 1,000 documentaries, and 1,000 speeches. I'm telling you, no amount of teaching or preaching could give us this much insight and information. Remember, in my last video, I talked about the hypocrisy of the business community that sponsors destructive messages and content directed at the black community. But all of a sudden, when comments and content not even half as destructive is directed at a certain community, namely the Jewish community, for example, all of a sudden, everybody becomes holy and righteous, cancelling contracts and the whole 9 yards. Well, in this video, we're still in class, and I'm going to show you another lesson to be learned from this whole situation. The way the Jewish community and the business community are reacting to Kanye's comment is showing how much value and regard the Jews have for themselves, and how much value and regard the business community have for the Jewish community. Yes, that is true. But it also shows something else. Without even realizing, they are exposing their collective contempt for black people. I know it sounds like a stretch, but hear me out. I'm getting to my point. Make no mistake, Kanye is not just an artist or a business person in the eyes of these people. He's black. He represents a type. He fits a profile. Regardless of his financial success, in their minds, he has a certain place in which he is to remain. He has a certain role. And when a black person steps out of that role and quote unquote pass his place, as we would say in Jamaica, he has to be dealt with a certain way. He has to be disciplined violently. That is the history. So on top of the contracts that Kanye had already lost, about 10 I think, I see a letter online where his bank, JP Morgan, is closing his account and is returning his money. A mural of him painted on a wall in his hometown Chicago was painted out since I did my last video. Now, when you consider the way the quote-unquote mob descended on him, the severity of the punishment compared to the crime, this is a lynching taking place right before us in broad daylight. Kanye West is being lynched economically and socially. The brother is being hanged, gentle people. And for what? For making a tweet that can be considered a threat directed at the Jewish community. I would agree that the comments are anti-Semitic. If someone said that about my community, I would be up in arms. I'm not going to play the hypocrite. But we are talking about the United States here, gentle people. The home and headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan that is still in existence to this day. This organization did not make comments about black people that could be taken as hate speech or taken as a threat. They hunted and haunted black Americans, torched their homes, even churches. They mobbed African Americans in the streets in broad daylight. Now, I'm no expert at American history, So I want someone to tell me if this organization or its members have ever been called to the bank and told to take back their money because their actions were anti-black, because of what they were doing to black people. Has any bank manager ever said, take your money out of our bank, Mr. KKK, because you're hurting black people? Has that ever happened? This is happening in a country where it took literally 101 years for the government to agree that burning people in the streets, not just black people, but mostly black people, lynching, is a federal crime. Now imagine that. Where were all these moral crusaders, these rapid responders who responded to Kanye in the space of 1 week? Where were they for those 101 years when African Americans were being lynched? As I said, the way the backlashers are going about quote-unquote punishing Kanye West tells us something about them. It shows they have very high regards for themselves and their community, as I said before. It shows that there are double standards when it comes to black people. No surprise there. It also shows that under that religious and moralist, pious outward presentation, underneath, at their core, deep down, they can be very vile and extreme and unforgiving when it comes to us as black people. When it comes to the black man, they take on a very brutal demeanor, and they need to check themselves. That is why, as much as I don't support Kanye's comments, I am not going to help them kill him. That was the mistake our ancestors made that caused 12 million of us to come to this part of the world on slave ships, and after 500 years still fighting for our liberation. They don't have my support in this crucifixion. We have to be careful, black people. You see, back in Africa in the 1500s, tribes had their disagreements till they turned into conflicts, till they turned into wars. So both sides, because of their disagreements, because they didn't see eye to eye, saw each other as enemies. So when the Europeans came to get slaves, they sold their quote-unquote enemies to them. That's how the transatlantic slave trade started. For a moment, because of anger, because of disagreement, because they didn't see eye to eye, they forgot their brotherhood. They forgot for a moment that they were both black. By selling their quote-unquote enemies to the white man, they thought they were getting a deal, getting rid of their enemies and getting paid to do it. But when the white man could get no more slaves, he returned with machine guns to take the slave sellers themselves as slaves and all their lands with its gold and platinum and diamond and cobalt, you name it, for themselves. It was then that both tribes realized that the white man was an enemy of both of them. But by then, it was too late. But I digress. I am simply saying that despite my disagreement with Kanye West on certain things, he is black, and I will not help them lynch him because I know that the same contempt they have for him, the same anger that burns inside them for him, they have that same contempt for this black skin. That anger is burning for me somewhere in the background. And it is burning for you as well. I think I should wrap it up here. I may address other lessons from this scenario if I pick up anything. So you can stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, this is what I want you to take away from this video. Remember that the fury, the anger that burns in these people for black people has not gone anywhere. Sorry to disappoint those who thought that we had accomplished something. In the words of Joe Biden himself, speaking in 2021, just last year, when lynching became a federal crime, he said, and I quote, "Hate never goes away. It only hides." I am hopeful for a time when people of all ethnicities and races will live together in harmony. I long for that. But we are not there. We are not even near. That contempt that they have towards us, that hate, it is not gone, and it is not hiding, gentle people. It is on full and flagrant display. That is why I say we have to love each other. We have to help each other. We have to protect each other. Our salvation as a race cannot be tied to theirs. We have to save ourselves. I rest my case. I want you to consider subscribing to the channel if you appreciate the content. That is, if you haven't subscribed already. If you like the video, click on the like button so YouTube will make it more available to other people who have a taste for similar content. And please remember to share the video as well. Help me to spread the word. Until the next one, remember your ancestors. In whatever you do, remember your brothers and your sisters that will represent each other. Stand up for each other. Care about each other. Care about our continent. Black is one. Live the revolution.